You would never shower for me, or just not today?
No, I just know you like it dirty, so.
Not on a Monday. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's a given.
I'm a nice showerer, so I don't do morning showers.
Yeah, you don't do morning ablutions. You do them in the evening.
See, it's a word I don't know. Gonna have to take that as disrespect.
Use the big word I don't understand. That makes me angry. And we just summarized the entire MAGA movement in one sentence.
It seems like it, right?
Pretty much. What do you want to cover today?
We can do some Owens if you want, or we can do something else. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot you were going to do some Candace Owens for us. Yeah, I've got kind of been digging in on this whole boat strike thing in Venezuela, so it's starting to get pretty spicy. This is going to be some real holiday treats for everyone involved.
The whole thing is ludicrous. It's funny.
It is. All right, should I do the quick around the world and then over to you for Candace Owens?
Sure, whatever that means.
Oh, Adam, I think you need to go to Urban Dictionary and type in around the world and just hit enter. Just go for it, man.
No,
right now.
I know I've heard of that as a sexual term. I don't even know if I remember what that hell that. Around the world is everything, really.
Again, Urban Dictionary. I'm not, this is not a family podcast, but it's not that kind of podcast either.
Kids don't watch it, but it's for the sensitive ears as well of adults.
Oh, God. So.
It's going to make things difficult going forward.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Idiot Seeking Village. I'm Rich. That is my partner in podcasting and only occasionally in life, Adam. Adam, do you know why you'd better watch out, you better not cry, and you better not pout?
I don't know, but I know you're going to tell me why.
Because Santa hates little bitches. That's why.
He shocked Santa's balls.
Oh, God. That's right.
Little South Park throwback.
That's a classic.
That was one of the best ever. I love that. You also see, like, also just shoots him.
Yeah, no, Santa getting shot down over Iraq and getting tortured is definitely an all-timer, though for me, it always gets overshadowed by the Easter episode, the Hair Club for Men, and Jesus fighting the church, and of course, begging Kyle to stab him in the throat and kill him. So that, because he has the power of resurrection, he's like, dude, it's Easter. I'm a Jew. I can't kill Jesus. This is too much.
They are political comedy genius juggernauts.
It's really something. Just all the respect. By the way, to be doing it for what, almost 30 straight years at this point is, good Lord.
Yeah, it's...
If we could do this, I mean, we've been doing this for 3 months and this is exhausting, but we're on top of this.
Well, in the beginning, they did like 20 episodes a year, then they've dropped down considerably as they've gotten, their hands into many other things like Broadway plays and movies and things like that, and restaurants.
Well, at some point, they got to spend the billions that they've earned, right?
Yeah.
At least you'd hope you get that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. It's well deserved.
Speaking of spending billions, we have confirmation from the UN that the drone strikes that Russia did on the radiation shield that was installed over Chernobyl a couple years ago did in fact damage the outer sheathing and compromise the structural integrity. So good news, Adam, we're all still going to die because of the fucking Chernobyl accident. It's again Russia's fault.
I think they should. I wish there was a way they could bring in like big industrial fans and install them on the nuclear and have it that blow the air and onto Russia as a big giant cloud of a nuclear cloud. It's like, hey, you guys did this. This is your accident. Fix it.
That is like the ultimate like petty neighbor squabble when they like shine a spotlight in the backyard directly over the fence at you, right? Like he's basically installing those fans to blow the radiation back at Russia.
Yeah. Fix it.
But yeah, this is, I couldn't help but dig in a little bit more on this Venezuela stuff because, again, it's getting spicy with this boat tap and everything. Now you've got finger pointing, he said, she said, between Hegseth and Admiral Bradley, who apparently was Joint Special Operations Command admiral who was in charge of that, who supposedly made the order. Apparently now we've had 45 minutes between the initial strike that downed the boat and watching these couple of sailors, let's just call them, right, floating on, doing their best Titanic impression at the end before we sent in the second strike of missiles. So I don't know if fog of war really applies when you've got 45 minutes of high definition footage of them waving at the planes circling overhead, watching them. And for you, I know you're a big fan of Carolyn Levitt. We now have a brunette version of her who seems even more unhinged, and her name is Kingsley Wilson. And I think I'm going to pull up a picture for you because
Pentagon woman.
Yes, she's the Pentagon
she's
lady.
Super young, also.
Yes, she is. I actually want to show you because I know
she might still be in college. She looks so young.
Look at her. She's on. I got her on screen for you. I mean, that is the kind of smile and the dead stare, lifeless stare in her eyes that like this person would order, concentration camps to be liquidated. This is not a good person. Of course, she's got the requisite cross around her neck and everything else. It's delightful.
But I did notice the other day that Caroline, for one of her things, when she was going to do some serious, significant lying, she wasn't wearing the cross. It was like one of the first times I've ever seen her without one. It's like,
little hedging of bets.
Yeah, she's like, it's going to start smoking if I leave this on tonight, so I'm just going to take this off for the meeting and then I'll put it back on afterwards.
Yeah, I found the interesting thing with with Kingsley Wilson, right? She's out there, and her and a couple other folks in the Pentagon are like, yeah, no, we absolutely know who these people are. And Chrissy Houlihan, who's a Pennsylvania rep, who was one of the people involved in that Mark Kelly video where they said don't obey, ignore unlawful orders. And she's like, okay, cool. I'm on the Senate Subcommittee for Intelligence and and everything military. Show me the evidence, right? You're saying you have enough evidence that that beyond a reasonable doubt that these are, narco-terrorists or whatever terminology you're using, and that we're at quote unquote war with them, yet you're refusing to provide the information that would, actually allow us to take them to court, arrest them, and charge them with crimes. So it's fun because they're also, within the Trump administration, they're using the acronym DTO, or Domestic Terrorist Organization, which, they declared Antifa Domestic Terrorist Organization. Remember that actual designation doesn't exist, but they're liking to use it internally against their enemies. What's to stop, this at some point going, oh, maybe we'll throw a couple missile strikes at some protesters who we decide are Antifa adjacent and domestic terrorists, and, going above and beyond saying this is okay. We have enough information to know that they're terrorists, right? Or that they're criminals and that we can summarily kill them, but we don't have the actual wherewithal to arrest them and charge them and put them through a trial.
No, there's nothing stopping them from going on a raid, shooting a few protesters, anything at this point, because it seems like whatever they say is whatever they say, and the Supreme Court will probably give them a stamp of approval eventually.
It's once again, it's the Eric Cartman presidency. I do what I want.
It seems like it, because is his name Tom Cotton?
Yeah, Arkansas. Yep.
And he was like, they were going to flip the boat back over, they were going to put the drugs back on the boat, and they were going to continue their war.
The most ridiculous.
So for me, it was like, that worries me tremendously if that's what was going to happen and that was possible to happen, because it makes me wonder how bad are our missiles that they couldn't even blow up this boat enough where that was not a possibility. What the fuck did they shoot it with?
Yeah, I suppose that's a fair question, right? You wouldn't expect any survivors from one of these missile strikes.
Or the boat to survive.
I guess, maybe hit the water or I don't know.
Oh my God.
There's always some percentage of unexploded ordnance and all that sort of stuff that's always happening with, any sort of military hardware. And that tends to be very problematic because that sits there long after the cessation of any hostilities. And then, you get kids playing with it or whatnot. Or in this case, you might just get an actual fishing boat just, float over it and boom, trigger it just by contact.
Because he's saying the boat survived, the cocaine survived, the people survived. I think the Defense Department needs to relook at their ornaments. This is ridiculous.
But I mean, yeah, you've got this ridiculous approach, which is, fog of war. We didn't know what was going on. Okay, well, if you don't know what's going on, why are you shooting missiles randomly into an area? Right? And if you do know what's going on, why are you shooting missiles at clearly people who are in distress? If you're saying you're at war, we're at war, then there are rules to war. Otherwise, they're war crimes. Now, granted, those tend to be more of a set of guidelines because whom are we going to turn ourselves into, right, when we commit a war crime? No one. But they're having it both ways. Everyone's a criminal and who deserves to be summarily executed. We have evidence, but we're not going to show you the evidence. That's not enough to capture them and send them to trial. Mm-hmm. We can see everything, but we don't see anything, right? It's this there's always this thing in fascism, which is the enemy is always strong and always weak at the same time. You always heard it with when they were talking about Biden for years and years. Biden is a criminal mastermind, who's part of this globe-spanning mafia crime family. Also, Biden is psychologically degenerate, Alzheimer's patient who is not competent to do anything. It's like, well, which is it? Right? Which one are we? Or we're just picking and choosing what's convenient for us at any point to sell the story.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think, Congress itself, I think we're seeing it splitting at the seams over all this stuff. Because I think it was now they're up to 50 people who are retiring because of questionable stuff. Yeah, and I don't know why her whole name throws me off all the team. MTG?
Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
She was on CBS yesterday and basically confirming that it seemed to me that the majority of the reason why she's leaving is that the death threats she was getting, not only on her, but on her son and her children. And one of them, she's like, how do you know that it was, what Trump was saying that sparked this? She's like, some of the emails put in exactly the words that he said into the death threat emails. That's why. So I'm like, it's getting scary there because it's like you turn on him, it's like somebody might put a bullet in your head. But, the liberals are the very violent ones.
One of my favorite terrible games to play in 2025 has been Trump quoting Trump, which is just pulling any of his old tweets, which directly contradicts everything he's doing and saying. And now we're getting actually a similar situation with this, with Hegseth. Apparently, he had a video back in 2016. I think he was on Fox or something similar. And he was basically talking about, war crimes and this and that. And you have to disobey orders from a commander in chief when you know that the orders are bullshit. It's like, oh, funny that you say that. And here you are some 8-9 years later doing the exact same shit.
I didn't know I'd have this cool job.
Yeah, exactly.
How did I know? I didn't. I just thought I'd be a pretty face on TV.
He's like, I just needed beer money, man.
I wanted the fancy beer. I had to upgrade.
Yeah, he wanted to move from Coors Light to the banquet beer.
I love it. He's like we need tough men. We need real men. You guys got to shave your beards. And I have put in a makeup room in the Pentagon for myself when I go on television. Because that's what real men do. All these years, we need a guy who needs to get doctored up before he goes on film because he's got to look good. And that's why the latest South Park episode, everything was him just doing social media.
Oh, yeah? I haven't seen it yet.
All of it was just like, gotta watch and subscribe, guys.
Oh, boy.
Because that's what he is.
They're all angling for their post-administration jobs. But I mean, this seems to actually picking up some steam as a potential problematic thing. If you think about it, Supreme Court gave the president blanket immunity, essentially, for activities done within the scope of the executive branch's privileges, according to the Constitution, right? that doesn't extend to everyone else, which means that what you're going to see is these preemptive pardons likely go out again, like we saw with Biden, right? Kind of pardoning, but what's his name, Fauci and Clinton and a bunch of others, out of the administration. Yeah, exactly. And so we're going to see more of the same shit. And it's like, again, we're really pushing the limits of what the hell the Constitution was designed to handle at this point. And if it just turns to we can conduct criminal behavior and questionable behavior that circumvents the laws of this country, and at the end, you just literally whip out the monopoly, get out of jail free card and slap it to everyone who potentially could have been on the radar. Again, we no longer live in a country of laws, or at the very least, we live in a country of laws where laws apply to you and me. They don't apply to people in power, which, again, is a bullshit situation to be in.
Yeah, it's like Trump's. I told him to do it, so therefore, by the power vested in me, he's free.
Did you see the interview on Air Force One? Remember we were talking last week about how he was pardoning all these criminals, right?
Yeah.
Everyone he's pardoning is either a white-collar criminal who's done like a Ponzi scheme, or he's pardoned a drug trafficker. He was asked by a reporter, like, hey, why'd you pardon this guy when you're saying, you're at war with all these traffickers? Why are you pardoning traffickers? And he's like, which one? It's like, dude, you pardon so many fucking people, you don't even know who you're pardoning at this point.
He doesn't know shit. He just is told, and they're like, okay.
And then he goes into like this generic rant about consequences, and he makes it about himself, of course, right? So kind of all the charges that were against him after he left office the first time, this and that. And it's like, again, you pointed this out last time we spoke. He sees people like him who have suffered the consequences of their actions, and he's like a beaver building a dam, right? When he sees a body of water, he's just like, absolutely not. And he just kind of lets these people off the hook for actual criminal behavior, the same type he says he's against.
I wonder if his goal in the end is just be like, you know what? I just want to destroy the Justice Department entirely because they tried to take me down. Perhaps they were right to do so, but I'm still going to tear it down and make justice whatever I want it to be, because it just seems like it.
Mm-hmm.
You've been convicted of fraud. We spent years on this. Yeah, he's going to let you go tomorrow. You barely stepped a day into prison and you're already done.
Yeah.
And if you pay the fee to him, then you're good to go usually. Almost all of them are connected in some way to like some kind of money that he will be rewarded with.
Buy some Trump coins so that you can launder the money directly to him, or Melania coin, right? If Trump coins are in a low supply, and go from there.
Yeah, be like, here, listen, I bought this many coins. How many more coins do I need in order for you to pardon my father?
Good times. Should we move on to Candace Owens and your rapidly disintegrating psychological well-being?
Dude, man, when we started this podcast a few months ago, we definitely did not do the proper research into the proper lucrative podcasting world. In the sell your soul for money internet world, creating a moderate, honest, balanced, middle of the road podcast like we did is the worst podcasting format you can pick. You need to be on either very liberal, and that's really not that great of a choice either, but you got to be like die-hard conservative conspiracy podcaster. That is where the money is. I never realized how much money until I started looking at Candace Owens and like watching her. I'm like, well, why does she do what she does? And how does, but the money is obscene. And it makes.
Are you saying that we should sell out our souls and consciences? How much money do we need in order to, because there's going to be a scale here, right? You're going to sell out. You're going to do shit that you don't want to do. You're going to have trouble sleeping at night. But at one point, does the sheer volume of money you make compensate and get you back to sleep, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've been doing the calculations. I'm still doing the math. It's a lot of significant calculus going on. There's a lot of like numbers I don't understand. A lot of like shapes involved. I don't know why there's shapes involved in these math equations. But that's what I'm doing right now to break it down to see what I'm willing to sell my soul for, because money is substantial. Because they usually get, according to Bloomberg experts, the top conservative podcasts get about $10,000 to $100,000 per ad read. And Candace usually does about 2 per read. And she's one of the top conservative podcasters with around like 5 million YouTube subscribers, getting around 2 million views an episode. So I'm going to say she's about 100,000 ad rates. So she's making about $200,000 an episode reading. For her, like, I think she does about a 30 or 60 second commercial. And a lot of these are like conservative products that they're being sold, like very geared towards that audience, not Target or general branded type stuff. But in
What was the amount of money that came out during the Sandy Hook civil trials? So, I mean, how much money was Alex Jones pulling in per year? It was some like tens of millions because of his supplements.
Yeah, like his like, what is it? Year supply of food and stuff like that.
Oh my God, yeah, the survival bunker food and all that shit.
Yeah, didn't he like, what was it, $1 billion settlement? But I'm sure they like worked that down to something else, and he's still going strong.
Yeah, it's hard to see the numbers because, he had some sort of normal kind of income, right? Like on paper. But I think when you look at the body of work in terms of the supplement sales and all that other shit, like he was bringing in like hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's why he had that $1 billion settlement, because of Sandy Hook, because you made a ton of money and now you're going to pay that back because you did it off the suffering of these kids and their families.
Yeah. So, but in contrast, so you got her probably getting 100,000 and maybe the very low end, the 10,000. But in comparison to the liberal side of the audience, which is like the Midas Touch, who also has like 5+ million subscribers, and the Bulwark, which has like almost 2 million, they only make a few $1,000s per ad. That is insane. We're talking about 10, 20 times more if you're peddling conservative stuff. And I watched and listened to her like more hours than I care to admit on her. And she's really good.
Okay. All I've ever know of her is that she's like token black conservative woman, right? So she dove into a niche, and she says the most outlandish, stupidest, most easily disproven stuff on Twitter. And right, anyone with half a brain and a Google search can disprove anything she's saying. That's all I know about her, other than now she apparently firmly believes that Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, is trying to have French special forces execute her. So we got to back up here, right?
Of being a transvestite.
I'm pretty sure those are accusations that have been around for a couple of years at this point. I mean, come on, dude. She was his, elementary school teacher? I mean, that's one way to be hot for teacher, right? He's the youngest member of his family. He has two half brothers. Oh no, he has two, what the hell is the term? Stepbrothers, whom he's also a stepfather to because of all this, right? Because she has like 2 sons who are slightly older than him from another marriage.
Oh God.
I think only the French could pull this off, honestly. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed.
Well, in this country, we just call them cousins.
That's just an Alabama, family tree is a wreath.
Yes. So she's
all right. So let's back this up, right? So yeah. Let's go. Talk to me about Candace Owens.
So she's very eloquent, but the reason that she does this is clearly the money is so good, and it's a good business model because you don't have to do, even though she always will say, I'm not afraid to do the research. I'm not afraid to tell the truth. There's not much research going on or involved in her talks, but she's a great orator. She's great at speaking, but this is very much the Amway multi-level marketing type thing where you don't make your money in multi-level marketing you don't make it in selling products, but by selling the idea of profits to people who then become the sellers of the products and the business model. And Betsy DeVos, who created Amway, is one of the biggest conservative financial supporters of her and a lot of other conservative people who make a ton of money in this industry.
Well, so I think you're touching on a very important thing, right? Which is so much like the Ben Shapiros, the Nick Fuentes, right? The Charlie Kirks, all these Candace Owens, Andrew Tate, Alex Jones, right? They're all raking in major money. But to your point, it's not about the ad reads, right? They are running a grift on the back end. Like I know I can tell you, for instance, Andrew Tate, he doesn't make his money doing ad reads. He makes his money because, one, he has a whole bunch of exploited women basically in a basement doing cam work for money. And those are where his girlfriends come from. And the other is Discord servers where he sells his whole manosphere shtick to stupid teenage boys who are just desperate to not have to get a real job, right? And kind of want to cheat code capitalism and the whole system. And that's where he makes his money from, right? It's all these grifts and scams on the back end, right? Alex Jones didn't make his money doing ad reads for InfoWars. He did it by selling supplements.
But that's the thing is like that's what they're really selling. But even before that, and that is the payout. That is the pay dirt eventually, because what they're selling instead of like products is they're selling information, which they can disseminate and continue to do so. And we keep returning that money and returning those people, and they could get it from the advertisers and stuff because I think it was vidIQ who like does research on social media and how much they make and what they make and things like that. That she makes about between $100,000 to $300,000 a month on YouTube from YouTube advertisements every single month. Millions of dollars. So the more people you reach with your information that you think is real information, the more you come in. And if you don't ever have to be wrong, you could just keep rehashing it. And she's so good at that because she made most of her money. I mean, not most of her money. More recently was the Charlie Kirk thing that really launched her into like the upper stratosphere. And that she was like, I want the truth about his murder, conspiracy.
Yeah.
And so finally TPUSA was like, okay, we want to have this discussion with her. She's made a lot of money promoting all this disgraceful stuff about us and about what happened with Charlie Kirk. And she's like, so instead of addressing that, which, somebody would do if you were accusing me of being gross and disgraceful, she instead accuses them of making millions selling merchandise, which they did and which was pretty disgusting, but doesn't talk about the fact that what they said about her was actually true. So she overglosses that truth point and goes into her own thing, where two things can be true at the same time, but she's not going to address the other truth. And she does that a lot.
That's pretty standard these days, though, right? Is ignore the piece that is inconvenient for you and attack the other one, right? Or attack the source of the other one that is true or is the one you really want to draw focus to.
And it almost makes it sound like, well, the people who watch must forget the first part of it because they're like, yeah, right, they did make a lot of money. That's true. Not, well, wait. They just accused her of making a lot of money. Wait, did she make a lot of money? It's like almost like that didn't exist. It was like besides the fact type thing. Because she's made hundreds of thousands of dollars on these videos about Charlie Kirk. And God knows what she makes from paid endorsements or any of that kind of stuff that she does on the sides or speaking engagements. And and now with the Macron, what do they call them? Marcons or Macrons?
Emmanuel Macron.
So the Macron family is suing her because
you're thinking of macaroons, which is the French little coconut-based pastry. Yeah.
Yes. They're suing her because accused Bridget, his wife, of being a man. And then I don't really even know. I have not been able to figure out why that's a big deal. Like, why was that something that attention needed to be brought to? Maybe it was like trying to make transgender, like, continue that transgender hateful stuff so we could get more likes from that. I'm not really sure why. But she's apparently not a transvestite, or a transgender woman. And so she's suing them. And she said, we've sent her proof, but she's denying that they sent her proof. And Fortune made...
Wait, sorry. So the Macrons, Jesus, they sent proof to Candace Owens that
through lawyers,
Bridget Macron is biologically a woman?
Yes. Now, I don't know the extent of what they showed, because clearly she's ignored some of that fact. I don't know what the proof really was or whatnot. But there's like...
I'm surprised that they would even bother to... I get defending, the First Lady of France.
I think it's part of the court documents to show, like, this is what we've done. This is why we're suing her for God knows how much money. But in this Fortune magazine that I was reading about this lawsuit, that the lawsuit could bankrupt her. And it goes on to talk about a lot of all these other metrics. She completely avoids the fact that this lawsuit has anything to do with anything that she's said or done, but instead it's the elite's way of controlling her and controlling others by either you do what we say, or we will kill you, or we will defame you, or we will bankrupt you. Nothing to do with the fact that, like, you've been calling his wife a man for a really long period of time and all kinds of other rumors. And now you're saying that they're sending in people to kill you, wet work squads. They got the French Legion in the United States doing operations trying to kill you, that Charlie Kirk died for you. You're creating all this stuff, and you're wondering if they sue you over this, you could go bankrupt. It's like, it's in a brilliant way of doing things, but eventually you got to pay the piper, just like Alex Jones.
I mean, I guess so. You've touched on a lot of this right now. It's an attention economy, right? And this is the problem with social media and the algorithms. It doesn't reward truth, balance, fairness, anything, right? It rewards attention seeking, which lends itself to the most outlandish behavior. And yeah, it doesn't matter who it is, right? If we really wanted to get attention out there, we would just start saying the dumbest shit imaginable, right? We just start putting conspiracy theories up. Oh, go for it.
I want to say that I am wondering if Candace Owens, because there's, that saying, thou dost protest too much, is really a man herself. She has a very strong jawline, and I demand and I ask for nude photos, hustler-style nude photos, as proof that she is a woman. And she is a mom, so therefore she'd be a MILF, and I'd be accepting of these pictures. I have no qualms about moms or anything like that. I want photos to prove that she is a woman, and I think, according to her logic, I'm due those things. I'm due that. And I think that would help her greatly in her case with the Macron family.
I'm trying to decide what my knowledge is of revenge porn laws and if this qualifies.
I think it's only fair. Her logic dictates that I should be entitled to this. And you know what? And you know why? And this is the real reasoning, is because I think she's attractive. And it's making me question my sexuality if she was a man. And I think...
So she owes that to you?
Yes, I think she does. Her logic says to me that I deserve this information. I'm willing to prove that I'm a man, if necessary, for those photos. Fair enough?
This is not the direction I thought... This is not the direction I thought any of this was going to go in when you said you were going down the Candace Owens rabbit hole to tell us what's happening here.
I think this is the logical conclusion to it. This is what works in podcasting. I think this is nothing I've said is not true. Maybe not. Who knows? I need proof. I need proof. That's all. That's how she runs her show. That's how she runs things. And I think maybe that proof is on those Egyptian planes. I think that the proof of those photos might be on the Egyptian planes that I'm looking for.
Egyptian planes? What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, God. That's her other thing, is that there's been Egyptian planes following Erica Kirk for years, apparently. Well, because Erica Kirk worked in the Middle East and these things were there, but there was military planes that were in Utah during the time of Charlie Kirk's death, but left before he died. It's just random. I'm like, she's like, I want to know. And she's like asking like TPUSA, you should tell me these things. You should tell me I'm like, why do they know these things? Why don't you ask the FAA or something? Like, it's just incredible. Like, ask the person who's not going to know the answer. And then when they say, we can't tell you because we don't know, it's like, because you're covering it up. It's like me asking my son, tell me the answer to this calculus equation. I can't. Exactly. Because you don't want to, because you're covering up the answer. Oh, my God.
The unfortunate side effect of our post-truth world. But you mentioned this before, right? These guys are operating on like an MLM type scheme, ultimately, to drive their money. Look, what happens at a certain point? There's only so many gullible people whom you can pull into these schemes and to profit off of them. Eventually, you've got to start eating each other, right? Eating each other's fan bases in order to continue to grift, to continue to build, and continue to go. I mean,
And
this
that's
is...
what she's doing, because she left the Daily Wire and...
Yeah, no, it's also like when Tucker Carlson left Fox News, right? Because he was just fully complicit in the Dominion lawsuit and kind of everything that was going on, right? The court records show that. And they've got to make a name on their own. Same thing, Glenn Greenwald, when he left The Intercept, and others, like these people are who they are, but they kind of go out there and they put up the shittiest headlines, the most clickbaity stuff to get the attention. And because unfortunately, media is this ego-driven system. It's not about news and information. It's about sensationalism. It always has been. It's just supercharged these days.
Yeah, because people forget like what news is supposed to be. Nobody gives a shit about you going to the store every day or having to buy your food or getting your car fixed. They want the sensational news story. They want the police arrest. They want the crime scene. They want that. That's what makes you want to watch. If it was just
if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah, look at Facebook. Same premise. It's nobody posts their daily boring life if it's the same monotonous thing. They got to spice it up, and they put it on Facebook. They put their best stuff up there to get the most attention. That's how this whole thing works.
I'm looking at this Candace Owens thing. So she, apparently on her podcast at some point over the summer, said that I am fully prepared to take on this battle on behalf of the entire world.
You know what?
Man. I mean, speaking of ego, holy shit.
And she's gone, basically almost full anti-Semite. And the whole thing, the whole premise is so simple and easy because you have like AIPAC and all these other groups who are up to their own no good and shenanigans. So you're able to take that aspect and run with it and then paint everything with it. Everything is it. Everything, and it's just gets so gross. Benjamin Netanyahu is not the most wonderful person in the world. Therefore, that still doesn't make every person living in Israel a bad person. But their logic just does not work that way. And
let's track of where you're going with that.
Meaning, like, you just say what you want to say, and then you have out there some form of information that proves you are correct.
Mm-hmm.
But you're able to paint a broad stroke with this brush. That's like what I was saying before about the with her and Charlie Kirk. She's made hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, on Charlie Kirk's death. But she accuses the other party of making millions of dollars, which they both did. You're both guilty. You're both gross. But you utilize that grossness to help yourself. And that's what she does. Benjamin Netanyahu was like, looking for a pardon. He asked Trump to ask for a pardon. Guy's fucking guilty. He's not a good person. So therefore, you make all of Israel not good. They're all can't be trusted. They're all sending in special agents to have me killed because here's the guy. He's a bad guy. It's like a simple thing that you can do and just paint everybody as evil. And people keep listening.
All right. I don't know what to say here. I guess I expected something different here, so I don't really know where to go with this.
Well, I'll tell you. The lawsuit is based on just one of the many facts of her videos that she pronounces. This just happened to be someone of specifics, and now they're suing her. But the videos that she makes are all the same conspiracy type videos that get attention. She's a great storyteller when it comes to these conspiracies. And these are things that you cannot factually prove usually or disprove.
Okay.
But in her case, by pointing specifically to an individual who technically can prove her sexuality, and I'm guessing in her mind she thought the president wife of France would not waste her time on that. And when she talks about it sometimes, she's like, I cannot believe this is must be the first time a sitting president of another country is suing an American citizen for free speech. So that's her fallback now, because I don't think this was what she thought was going to happen. The Charlie Kirk murder is just, for her, is she could just paint it very broadly. It's like, I don't believe that guy who assassinated him was the man. I think there was others involved. She doesn't trust the feds. There's, French Foreign Legion. Well, what group, who's going to sue her? I think she, realized that and has pivoted since. But, what she's done, the damage is done, and it's too late when it comes to Macron. And she just got to keep digging. That's what we've discussed in prior episodes. Once you fuck up in these worlds, you just got to keep digging, no matter what. And I don't know how she's going to get out of this one.
So this whole started with two women. I'm not going to name them because fuck them. They shared unverified rumors about Brigitte Macron's gender in a 4-hour-long YouTube video. And then it went viral ahead of the presidential election in 2022. And they were both found guilty of slander.
Yeah. And Owens picked this up, I think, I almost forgot what year we were in, about almost 2 years ago, in 2024, probably early 2024. She picked it up after the fact and ran with it because she probably was like, ooh, a conspiracy theory that kind of died.
Ooh, a conspiracy theory where the people who made the accusations were found guilty of slander. Gee, that seems like one I should jump on as a media person.
Yes, because their speech is being silent. That's the point. That's her whole thing is you cannot silence my free speech. And apparently free speech is say whatever the fuck you want, regardless if it's true or not, with no intention of defending yourself. And it seems to work.
The legal team for the Macrons said, I'd like to thank her for that reaction to the lawsuit. She is only helping us with our claim for punitive damages by expressing no remorse and doubling down on these falsehoods. Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The truth is irrelevant to her.
Well, yeah, that's a given, which is incredible. Would you say she gets 5 million views or 5 million followers or whatever?
Well, she has $5 million, but she gets about 1 million to 2 million views per episode. So she's making probably $200K per episode.
Try to decide. I had friends who they'd have these crazy uncles who, one buddy of mine, guy I grew up near, he would go spend summers in Pennsylvania with this former editor of a major newspaper here in the New York area. And they would, shoot RPGs and AKs at trucks and, things that were just kind of on this huge compound because they had a huge section of land. And apparently the guy was just the biggest conspiracy nut, this uncle whose house it was. And at the time, I remember me and my friends hearing this story, we're like, wait, he was like an editor for a major newspaper and he's absolutely fucking batshit insane. Like what kind of, we laughed at the concept because we figured that's the sort of person who is this steady, sober, intelligent person. And now I would just fast forward, it's, some 20 some odd, almost 25 years at this point. And 1 to 2 million views for these are the woods people, right? These are the people who go off the grid. This is your insane uncle peddling stupid conspiracy theories. But now they've got this mainstream outlet that is just all over all of your digital channels at this point to get access to this directly. And by the way, if you're willing to go on camera and spout the bullshit yourself, you can profit immensely from it. It's an insane world, right? I remember someone, I forget the guy's name, said years ago, right? One of the best things about social media is that it's democratizing the flow of information, right? It's no longer gatekept by the editorial staff and boards of the New York Times and the Washington Post and all these sorts of groups. And that's true, right? We've had this moment where we no longer have to sit behind the approved narrative when we're out there. We're talking about things, we're sharing ideas and whatnot. But it's gotten to this point where sensationalism and quantity overwhelm truth and quality in terms of the content creation and distribution and availability. And that's how we're in this post-truth world at this point, right? And we see it with these boat strikes and everything. Everyone's lying through their teeth about the situation, passing a buck, and it's not any different than what's happened. It's just faster and more in your face than it ever was. But there was at least this kind of, right, growing up, there was this paying homage to being professional and to not being a kook about all this stuff. And now it's like, no, be a kook. That's profitable. That makes you money. You and I, Adam, I think we should be kooks.
I'm already half kook.
You are half kook. That's why you're your survival
full
bunker.
Kook. But, you're right. And I think it's, technology has changed a lot of that because you had the news channels when we were younger and they just told the news. There was no, and then CNN with the 24 hours, and you had to maintain 24 hours of news where there was very little news to talk about. So you had to have opinions, and then it just kind of steamrolled from there, where the truth and facts don't sell. Because if I tell you a fact, it's over. It's done. You don't need to come back for more. I have to come up with another fact. That's a lot of work. Well, why not just come up with something that there is no truth to, or we don't know, or we're not allowed to know? So let's keep going. It's kind of like, are there aliens on Earth? Well, you're not going to be able to prove that, but I'm going to spend every week trying to prove that. And people are going to, if you're a good storyteller, and Candace Owens is, you're going to keep coming back to hear the stories. And she makes a shit ton of money through that, and she makes about $50,000 to $100,000 for her speaking fees, appearances, and her merchandise probably makes her hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars more. And then you're like, is the truth that important if you're making this kind of money? And that's really what's important to you. I don't know. You have the wrong type of people who are out there when there's this.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not going back to a Walter Cronkite reads the news and all Americans. That's the only version that they get, right? That's that's long in the past, and that wasn't necessarily good either. The way that worked, right? I mean, we were all sorts of fucked up stuff, Vietnam and everything else that was going on during that time frame. You got to wonder, like, is the pendulum going to swing back at some point? Is there going to be a pushback against this? And as long as everything is advertiser driven and attention driven, I don't see it changing, right? What do you do? Do you legislate against social media platforms in terms of pushing advertising, it doesn't work, right? As long as the advertising model drives the revenue, that it's always going to be about attention and getting in front of people and getting those eyeballs, getting those sales down the line. It's a capitalism problem more than anything. It's just fundamental.
Americans just need to want more. I understand it, like, like people who would watch soap operas, or the male version of wrestling. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure. It's a soap opera you're watching. It's not real. What they're doing for wrestling, what they're doing in the ring is real. They're actually acting this out in a way that could really hurt each other, and people have been seriously injured doing it. But the whole thing is song and dance. And that has its place. It's enjoyable. You want to watch that sometimes.
Yeah, it's kayfabe. We've talked about this.
But truth
and it's the whole
and
performance.
Facts have to take precedent. There's a time and place for everything.
Do they?
I think
and in the world we're living in, apparently they don't.
Exactly, they don't. But I think we need to return to that. Otherwise, none of that shit's gonna ever happen. You're just gonna have us spiraling into like probably clans of fucking insane people who think other people are just completely insane. We just need some form of like, you know what? I mean, maybe it will be like, they get rid of all vaccines. You'll have widespread disease, and people are like, well, I want to take a revisit to what that was. Like a little more factual based medicine. Maybe that's what it takes. It takes an epic disaster to occur from all these falsehoods and conspiracies to return people to more of like a truth based outlet. But until the money changes, I don't know. Or the people change. One of those has to change first. The money has to change, or the people have to change.
The money's that good. Why would you not lie for a living, right? Why would you not peddle in bullshit? Like, why would you get a regular day job?
Yeah, you have to just be like, you have to have some really good moral values, and have to have a dollar sign that's like too big where you're like, shit, I'm going to take that. So maybe a few people die taking a drug that I've promoted. God, but I'll be really rich.
Oh, so you're taking the Sackler family approach.
I think a lot of them do this. For some of the ads they read, a lot of them are questionable. A lot of them, were those COVID cures that they peddled that didn't work. Hopefully none of them peddled chlorine shots or anything like that. But you're kind of doing that. You're kind of saying, well, we'll let them take the responsibility of looking into it themselves. And I'm just going to sell it because they're going to pay me a lot of money.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting parallel, right? We regulate dangerous products, but we don't regulate dangerous speech, right? We shield it behind the First Amendment and the right to free speech. But there's an argument to be made, like, what is the responsible thing, ultimately? And you say, well, everyone's got their own choice in the matter. They get to choose what they believe in or not believe. You could also say the same thing about, quack medications that end up killing a good number of the people, right? These people have a choice. They choose to be informed a certain way and to take the risk. And so we kind of have it both ways right now, right? We will prosecute someone who creates medication that ends up causing addiction and death and all that, but we don't do the same for content and speech that's put out there that has the same net effect ultimately on its audience. And you kind of got to look at that and go, well, what is it? Is it a free-for-all? And we're all kind of on our own and there's no rules? Or we have an obligation to each other and some expectations around the society we live in? It's a tough one, right? You can't say either way is correct. You don't want to be regulating speech because, again, who's watching the Watchmen in this case, right? Who's ensuring that, there's a free exchange of opinions, especially ones that you don't agree with. But at the same time, we see that, it just got a Thanksgiving. We had a lot of real rough family events over the last 10 years or so. as all of this is ramped up and all turned to 11. How do you, what is the point where it starts to swing back, right? What has to happen in order for there start to get some semblance of balance? Yeah. How do we get the force back in alignment here, Adam?
Well, I think more things should take on like the smoking rules now, where you can't just advertise smoking. There's limits to that now. There used to not be limits. There's limits to, I don't even know if there is really any alcohol limits anymore. I see them in so many places now. But like you have gambling now where we're like, okay, we're finally going to legalize it. There's no limits. They put it everywhere. Everybody talks about it. Why am I watching a college football game pregame and they're talking about the fucking betting odds for a fucking college football game? Why is this not like a limit? Why is it? There should be limits just like this. It's like, if this is not something, your product is questionable or shady or affects tons of people or like a medication, there shouldn't be drug advertisements. Why are you being inundated with drug advertisements? You don't even fucking, you're watching. Now, I don't know if it's because I don't watch like regular, like standard, like, broadcast television. I watch Hulu. I would say 80% of all the commercials are drug commercials. Now, I don't know if that's a Hulu thing or that's a broad thing now, but all of them are drug commercials for everything under the sun. And 10% of the commercial is horrendous side effects. Are our doctors this misinformed? And then maybe we need to address that fact. But there's got to be a limit to so much of this stuff. Bring in cigarette smoking. You can't advertise it everywhere. There's no reason to advertise it everywhere. And as long as you let them keep people allowing them to advertise stuff that doesn't work or is dangerous, they're just going to keep doing it. I mean, Facebook had over $16 billion in spam revenue last year. That's a big number. I'm sure they're not going to work hard to get rid of.
That was what, 10%? That was a number, like $1.6 billion or something like that?
No, $16 billion.
$16 billion. So
in
it was
revenue.
Like out of like $160 billion total or something.
That's a
revenues.
Lot of fake stuff they know is fake.
Yeah. Why would Facebook crack down on $16 billion of free money? They're not culpable or liable for the outcomes of it. It's between the consumer and the people that they purchase it from. So yeah, of course, why would they turn down $16 billion? That's stupid of them. Again, capitalism, right? They've got to make the line go up every single time. It's idiotic. You're bringing up, I'm stuck on gambling, right? Because you brought that up. Look, did we need 2 cities in the entire country where gambling was legal? No, that was absurd, right? It made it fun, made it a unique, special event, but there was no reason to not have gambling be more broadly available to people. But now we're seeing the problems with, you've got mass arrests in the NBA, right, of officials and players. You've got informer players and whatnot. You've got various, plenty of people in every sport, NHL, NFL, MLB, are kind of watching these games and going, you're clearly fucking with the score, right? You're making plays that have no purpose being made. Right? You've got field goals to nowhere as time is expiring that, magically covers the spread. Right?
You don't know anymore.
You don't know anymore. And some of it is going to be, it's like when you get a car and now suddenly you see that car everywhere. Right. Yeah. It's a little bit of, it's got a bit of a psychological effect.
Yeah.
But at the same time, no, your broadcasters should not be sharing the fucking spreads during the game. Your color commentators should not be talking about what the odds are from whatever gambling house is broadcasting this particular game on TV. That's over the line. That's too much, right? Let the gambling happen, but don't make it front and center as part of the game. That's right.
Now you have, it's like FanDuel is brought to you by the NFL, or the NFL and FanDuel. They're like in bed together now. They wanted a piece of the action. That's why you had these, and like you have every bet under the sun. So that makes it even worse. Like those.
I mean, at this point, just bring back Joe Camel. Bring back the Marlboro Man. Give us smoking ads, right? Those were good, dude.
I used to, like, back when I was in high school, I never smoked. But they used to have, I guess they'd be, I think they were called miles on their cigarette boxes.
Yes.
And people, would just throw them away, whatever. And I had friends who did also smoke, but we'd pick up boxes or stuff and get the miles. And I ended up with like I had a Marlboro sweatshirt, a T-shirt. I don't know what a swag I got. I'm like, I've never smoked a day in my life, and I've worn those clothes. And I was like, free clothes, great. This was amazing. I was a high school kid. What the hell are you going to do, But
it's you look back at it, it's quaint, right? You look at the R.J. Reynolds and all those smoking settlements that happened right back in the 90s and everything that came out of that. And it's like, at one point, is that going to happen to gambling when we have a nation of addicts? Mm-hmm. Every family event now we go and all the teenage boys are like, they're going over their FanDuel accounts, right? They're talking about the spreads and this and that. It's like, look, I'm not opposed to this, but now it's the only thing people care about anymore.
Yeah, it's too much, especially like the prop bets, because a couple of those Major League Baseball players were busted because he would like basically make it known before he'd go into the game, all right, at this pitch or whatever, he would throw it this fast or whatever, and you could bet on that. So it was just like, they have limits of how much could be bet, but you're talking about tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm like, come on, why are you fucking this up? Is that what it comes down to? Is that we always fuck up a good thing?
We do. We always fuck up a good thing. I think it's just human nature at this point. If there's something happening, we will find a way to fuck it up.
But it's amazing. It's like you had free reign with alcohol, then you had prohibition. And we're like, all right, we got to go completely the other side. All right, this isn't working. Let's bring it back. Why can't we just say, okay, we haven't had gambling for a long time. Let's incorporate it, but you can't advertise it everywhere. Just putting in if you're addicted to gambling at the end of every one of your commercials is not good enough. It doesn't have to be on every single thing you look at everywhere. It's not necessary. Put limits to the stuff. Just like you want marijuana. Legalize marijuana already. But put on limits somewhere along the line. Don't make it doses being astronomical that you can purchase, where you can get. Apparently, there are levels of THC where you can become addicted to marijuana.
It's the parable of the golden goose, right? It's we manage to kill a good thing every single time. And that's just the story of humanity at this point, is we refuse to learn from our mistakes in the past and not do this shit again. And almost every single time, it's because there's a big old pot of cash to be made at the end. And everyone wants to dive in, whether it's smoking and drinking, whether it's gambling, whether it's freaking podcasting and the media, right? Everyone's got this cash grab and everyone's trying to grab the slice of the pie. And instead of, there's no slow walk, there's no sobriety in terms of the thinking. There's just, I got to get mine. And again, that goes back to just society as a whole. We create this artificial scarceness where if you're willing to sell out, whatever it is, whether it's a product or a service or anything, if you're willing to sell out, you can get a bigger slice of the pie and you can live more comfortably.
100%. The only thing I could think of would be you have to have an economy and economic structure where that pot of gold is not big enough where you would be willing to sell your soul for. It's not large enough where the alternative is so much smaller than that pot of gold. It's got to be like, oh, it's going to give me how much more money a year? $1 million more a year?
I think you're not giving people credit enough for just being shitbags to begin with. It's not even like selling their soul. They just see it as an opportunity and they just don't care.
Yes, but I think there would be less of those people if the reward wasn't so great and they didn't see $400 million, $800 million yachts floating around. If they were like, it's not even feasible, I can't even be part of that world because that world doesn't even necessarily exist anymore. They might. I wouldn't say you're not going to get rid of everybody. There's no way, because you're right. There's always going to be shitbags. I'm just like, there's always going to be somebody. You're never going to get rid of racism because there's always a racist. You're never going to get rid of shitbags entirely. The goal, I guess, is to educate people and to put it in a world where you could just shrink that douchebaggery down to as small of a number as possible. Because, yes, there's always going to be scam artists. But there shouldn't be factories around the world that try to scam you.
Hear me out. We work hard to minimize the number of douchebags. We stick them all on a boat and push it off the shores of Venezuela and let Pete Hegseth take care of the rest.
Are you kidding me? He would save those guys. He'd give them accommodations. He'd reward them medals of honor.
Well, right there,
like,
you're going to know. Do you actually know who's on the boat? That's how you know. If they don't shoot down the boat, then you know they know who's on there. If they shoot down the boat, they never do in the first place.
Well, they got those douchebags can't be allowed to like wave anything above and be like, "We're one of you. We're one of you." Then yes, you're right. But I'd like to look at it as more of a real possibility that there's a way out of all this. I haven't really truly figured it out, but there has to be a way. And maybe it like, we've talked like health being like one of the driving forces. Maybe even before that, we have to like address the Citizens United. Maybe that's number one on the list. And maybe if we get money out of politics, they won't let anybody influence anything.
All I'm hearing, Adam, at this point is that the problem with society is that it's filled with people. This is what Douglas Adams was saying when he wrote, "In the beginning, the universe was created," and right, it's been a very bad idea. I'm butchering the quote, right? But
was it Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I know, but I don't want to believe the alternative is to eliminate most of them. There just has to be a better way.
Oh, are we not going to become the genocide podcast? Is that not going to be our angle here?
We're going to change our name. We're the Genocide Podcast. We're going full.
We're going to go
wacko.
We're going to go full Thanos, right? We're going to throw it back to the Marvel movies. We're going for the snap, right? We just half of everyone just buy.
You know something would be very, very interesting, based on one of our past podcasts when you were discussing the I wish I could remember that far back, but that high school experiment that you talked about with the teacher.
Yeah. Ron Jones, yeah.
What was that experiment called? The third wave?
Third, they named themselves the third wave, yeah.
Third wave, right. If we, in essence, did that, but a podcast version where we went full wacko and see where that led.
So you literally just reinvented fascism.
You think that would be like that? It would be so big. We'd have just a bunch of like following fascists.
I mean, so we just talked about the need to get away from extremes and find some sort of middle ground. And you're now, after 20 minutes of just free talking, you've come back to fascism.
I know, but as an experiment to see like, holy crap, people, this is what we've been trying to tell you guys. You're going too crazy. We have way too many people listening to this who shouldn't be listening to this, because this is just an experiment.
Is that going to be the cast from now on? Is going to be like, you shouldn't be listening to us. Why are you doing what we say you should be doing? This is absurd. Don't listen to us. Wasn't that like a show or something? Wasn't like the stop doing what we keep telling, we're saying to do here?
I don't know, but that's pretty funny if there was.
There's something out there. I forget what. It was like, why are you listening to us? You shouldn't be listening. People are like, this is amazing.
Yeah, and then we have to go back to this podcast. It's like, so we did these episodes and we're talking about this, but people are just so in the echo chamber of that podcast, they don't even know there's another podcast running that's talking about this insanity because they've created this insanity. It'd be just an interesting experiment.
Right, Adam. I'm going to task. I'll be an observer here. Answer. I'm going to task you with. Yes, your non-fascism fascist experiment here. You're in charge. We did cover this. We know how this ends up, but you know what? This time it'll be different. I believe in you.
God, can you imagine how scary that would have to be. And then, like, I'd be so terrified of, like, the comments I'd get and all these people who would be part of that. And I'd just be like, this is an experiment. This is not real. And these people love it. I don't know if I can handle that kind of information, that kind of truth, that dirty truth.
I think you need to re-listen to our recording on Who Goes Fascist. That was the episode where we covered that. So yeah, go for it, dude. I want you to re-listen to it, realize you're saying exactly everything we talked about, and then go, fuck it. This time it's different. I got this. Hold my beer.
Not even this time is different. I just would think it's interesting because it's a thought experiment that has not been done in like the podcasting world, where somebody has gone full conservative as an example of why you cannot go full conservative and conspiracy conservative, because this is the audience that it turns out, and that audience is dangerous, and that audience is the people who turn fascist.
Basically, you're talking about like an unfunny version of Stephen Colbert doing his old show. What was that called?
The Colbert Report.
Colbert Report. Yeah. That was it. Colbert Report. So he named it after himself.
I love that was great.
Yeah, that's, and you still got conservative type of people being like, he was so much funnier when he was a conservative. It's like, you still don't get you were in on the joke.
Apparently they were the joke. But yes, exactly. Those were fantastic.
Let's do it. I think the new format going forward. Adam, we'll have to come up with a good name for this. The Freedom Cast or something stupid.
Heil Freedom.
Oh, God.
If you're going to go full, you got to go full. If you don't get it's a joke yet, I don't know how to help you.
This episode of the HeilCast brought to you by Hugo Boss, Volkswagen, and Bayer Pharmaceuticals.
Oh, God. That would be sweet. Or by Candace Owens and Alex Jones.
I think that's as good a note to finish up on. Everyone, as we go into this Christmas season, don't go full fascist. Do not listen to anything Adam says. But we'll see you here next week in order to start Adam's world takeover.
Please be good until then.
All right. Catch you all later.
Au revoir. Idiot Seeking Village is a production of Village Idiots Media. For more, find us online at villageidiotmedia.com or find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and wherever you get podcasts.